if you were going to take over the world? Would you blow up the White House Independence Day style? Or sneak in through the back door?
What's up, April here, and welcome back to The Struggle Is Real, my YouTube channel where I do TV and movie reactions and reviews, all for your viewing pleasure, and also mine. Today, I'm here with you all. I'm so glad because I've obviously been away from my channel for so long and I've missed you all so much. Obviously, I don't know any of you personally, but I do miss being on YouTube and sharing my love of film with all of you, and I'm so glad to be back. And because of that, I've decided to do a supersized video today. Now, how supersized is it gonna be? I don't know, because the light is fading and I don't have much time. But I wanted to focus on a genre that is very near and dear to my heart in terms of horror, and that's sci-fi horror. So today I'll be giving you a couple of my picks for some sci-fi horror movies that you can watch, because there's no time of year like a sci-fi time of year. And also, you know, why not? When you add science and horror together, you usually get some weird shit going on. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. So without further ado, let's get into it. My first pick for this sci-fi horror list is the 1997 movie Event Horizon. Starring Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill, this movie is about a crew that goes to investigate the reappearance of a ship that disappeared many years ago and now just mysteriously reappeared. And so the crew, who is captained by Lawrence Fishburne, attempts to figure out why the ship disappeared and what happened to the crew, because they are nowhere to be found. Now, obviously there are some malicious and sinister and downright sus things going on this ship, and the crew ends up being put through the ringer as they try to not only discover what happened to the previous crew and why the ship reappeared to begin with, but also to see if they can even make it out with their odds and ends and bits intact. Now, this movie is graphic. It actually kind of toes the line between being a sci-fi horror and more dipping into being a sci-fi gore because of how much craziness goes down on this ship. And if you're used to seeing Sam Neill in a positive, happy light because of, you know, him being in Jurassic Park, and you're used to all of the roles that Lawrence Fishburne has done over the years, most notably that of him being in The Matrix, and even more lighthearted things like Blackish, none of the lightheartedness is in this movie. This movie is dark as hell, y'all. So if you don't have the stomach to know what's going on in the ship, this might not be for you. But if you were interested in actually what happened to the ship Event Horizon, and you're interested in seeing some amazing turns from Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill, as well as an incredible ensemble cast, this is definitely a movie that you should have on your watch list.
No, I haven't seen anything, and I don't need to see anything, sir, but I can tell you, this ship is fucked.
Next on my list of sci-fi horrors is a twofer, and for that, I mean The Thing. Now, here's the thing about The Thing. The thing about The Thing? No? Okay, anyway. Now, with this choice, I've decided to not only include The Thing, but also its inspiration, the 1951 movie The Thing from Another World. The reason being is because both of these movies are solid as hell. If you are down for a nice black and white sci-fi movie that has like the drama of a instrumental, and you want to know what is going on, and you want to see people like, oh, I can't believe it, oh my god, and things like that, The Thing from Another World is for you. I love a good classic sci-fi movie. I love a good black and white horror movie, as you know, because that's how I opened my channel. But if you're in for a nice 80s cool practical effect, I'd go for The Thing. Now, both iconic sci-fi horror movies are about a group of scientists that encounter an alien species that can shapeshift into whatever it wants in its attempt to take over and colonize the world. Now, these scientists obviously don't know what the alien's true form looks like, but they don't know who they can trust in their attempts to capture and kill this alien. Now, in the 1982 version starring Kurt Russell and Keith David, you have some incredible effects, as that version of The Thing is known for its practical effects that even 40 years later still look absolutely incredible. The special effects in The Thing are so iconic that it is pretty much the benchmark for practical effects in horror movies. And since the movie is over 40 years old and the practical effects still hold up, I definitely say that it's a movie that's worth checking out. And in addition to that, the 1950s version, which inspired the 1980s version, which actually then in turn inspired a 2011 version, which is kind of related to the 1980s version, which, you know what, technically you can watch all three movies if you really want, because the 2011 version stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead and is related to the 1980s version in a way that I will not spoil for you here. But if you want to watch the 50s version into the 80s version into the 2011 version, I implore you to do so. Either way, you will not be left disappointed.
You see, what we're talking about here is an organism that imitates other life forms, and it imitates them perfectly.
No, Mr. Scott, I doubt very much if it can die, as we understand dying.
My next pick of the litter is the 2000 movie The Cell. Now, starring Jennifer Lopez and Vince Vaughn, this movie is about a psychologist played by Jennifer Lopez, whose help is requested by FBI agent Vince Vaughn in helping them extract information from a serial killer, played by Vincent D'Onofrio in amazing fashion, who is left comatose after a police encounter, and yet his latest victim is still missing. And so they use experimental technology for her to go inside of his brain and figure out where the victim is. Is kind of crazy because it's meshing up science and fantasy in an extraordinary way. The cinematography in this movie is actually incredible. There are some really, really dope visuals in this movie, and the performance, as I said, by Vincent D'Onofrio as the serial killer is A1. This man lost all his marbles, not even individually. He just poured them out on the floor and let them roll. And Jennifer Lopez, surprisingly, to me anyway, is doing a fairly solid job in this movie. And I'm proud of her for that. And Vince Vaughn, in one of his earlier serious roles, before he was strictly known as just doing more so comedy than anything, does an amazing role as FBI agent as well. But it's truly Vincent D'Onofrio's serial killer character that takes the cake here. Now, just like Event Horizon, this movie is also graphic. So if you don't have the stomach for seeing some serial killer, the mind of a serial killer, but like fantasy creepiness, I don't know how else to, we're gonna go with fantasy creepiness. This may not be for you. However, if you have the stomach to see some wild stuff go on screen, and if you have the stomach for your mind to do some gymnastics, if you watch the movie, you'll definitely understand the gymnastics reference, then this movie is definitely for you.
Where do you come from?
Next on my supersized horror sci-fi movie list, I'm so excited, is another twofer, and that being Invasion of the Body Snatchers, both the 50s version and the 1970s version. Mainly because I love both of them. They're both incredible movies, and you should absolutely check them out. Now, the overarching story of both Invasion of the Body Snatchers movies is that an alien species sends these seed pods out into the world, or mainly the city that the movie is taking place, and it ends up replacing and duplicating the people with replicas that are completely and utterly devoid of emotion until, they end up taking over the world. Now, within that, you have a group of people that are finding out that these aliens are slowly taking over other people, and they're trying to figure out who's an alien, who's not, and also try not to be duplicated themselves. These movies, both of them, individually and together, are absolutely incredible because as you're watching the movie, you're also trying to figure out who's an alien and who's not, and also hoping that the characters that aren't aliens stay not aliens and also don't get caught by aliens. It's a very topsy-turvy time. Now, the 1950s version is a quick watch, clocking in at just over an hour and 20 minutes, so if you're short on time, I definitely recommend you watching that one. But the 1978 version, which obviously over time has become quite iconic, not only because of the shocking things that happen within the movie, but because of the ensemble cast, is closer to 2 hours. But because of that cast, which includes Donald Sutherland, Jeff Goldblum, Veronica Cartwright, and the late Leonard Nimoy, you are definitely in for a treat as you try to figure out kind of like a scientific whodunit about who's it and who's not, if that makes sense. I feel like it makes sense. You're definitely in for a sci-fi horror masterclass of acting, some incredible practical effects, and one hell of a ride.
He isn't my husband. It's someone who looks like him. He's an imposter.
You're right. Has all the features, but no details, no character.
And last on my list of sci-fi horrors is the 2017 movie Life, starring Ryan Reynolds, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Rebecca Ferguson, as well as an incredible, there's too many people in this movie to name, to be honest with you, and I love them all. Taking place aboard the International Space Station, a bunch of astronauts/scientists discover a form of life, which, of course, them being scientists, they want to investigate and figure out what's what. But of course, in true fashion, not all is what it seems. And in the process of them investigating investigating this new life, their lives are in jeopardy as well. Now, outside of the incredible cast, which I've already told you about, which includes Jake Gyllenhaal, Rebecca Ferguson, Ryan Reynolds, and my personal favorite, Hiroyuki Sanada, this movie is kind of claustrophobic in nature because it takes place in one central area, a ship. And because of that, it gives this amount of claustrophobia because you know the crew has nothing to do but figure out how to take care of this entity before this entity takes care of them. Now, obviously, it being a newer sci-fi movie, there are special effects asunder. However, I would say that Life actually does a pretty solid job using its special effects to its advantage in the design of this alien creature. And like the sci-fi movies that came before it, it's always down to who's the last man or thing standing. So if you love a great ensemble movie or a great updated version of some ensemble movies from the past, Humans versus Aliens, I definitely say this is the right movie for you.
We're looking at the first incontrovertible proof of life beyond Earth.
Now, usually this is the point in my videos where I give some honorable mentions that are a little bit lighter in tone than the movies that I gave previously because, you know, not everyone is about that horror life all the time, and, you know, I get it, but not this time. Because I've been gone for so long, I'm going to give you not one, not two, but 3 more horror sci-fi movies. Why? Because I can. It's my channel. I do what I please. So, on the not honorable mention list, because this is just a continuation of the first list, so we're at movie 6 at this point, I give you Annihilation. This 2018 sci-fi horror, directed by Alex Garland, who had prior to this movie directed the sci-fi psychological movie Ex Machina, follows a group of women, both scientists and military, who are tasked with entering this mysterious zone/dome that just appeared out of nowhere and figuring out what all is going on inside this zone, because there are no cameras and no equipments that can penetrate it, and they need to figure out what's going on in there. However, once these women get inside this dome zone, they realize that there is some real freaky shit going on with the laws of nature, and they're just trying to get from point A to point B and maybe back to point C in one piece. Now, this movie is definitely a mind-F and has some incredible and very interesting and memorable visuals as you go along in the movie. If you've ever wanted to know what a human bear hybrid looks like, or a crocodile human, or hear a scream from a bear, man-bear pig, this is that type of movie. Whatever your brain is thinking that is not possible to create, that's what's going on up in this movie. Yep. And on top of that, you have an incredible cast of actresses to round out this movie, starring Natalie Portman, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Tessa Thompson, Gina Rodriguez, and even Oscar Isaac and Benedict Wong. Everyone's in this movie. Why not? Just throw them all in there. I mean, for shits and giggles, why not? But in actuality, this movie is really crazy, and it will kind of make you wonder what you've seen, and also what happened at the end as well. Can someone also tell me what happened at the end when you watch it? Please put it in the comment section if you've already seen it, with, you know, like a little spoiler alert thing so that you don't mess up the experience for other people. And if you haven't seen it and then you go watch it, then also put it in the comment section and tell me what happened at the end, because I'd love to know how we all felt about it together. But if you're down for a good sci-fi horror twisty turny bendy thingy, just like I said before, then this is definitely the movie for you.
When I look at my hands and my fingerprints, I can see them moving.
Next up on my supersized sci-fi horror movie list is the 1998 movie, The Faculty. Now, yes, this movie is a little bit more lighthearted than the other movies on the list, which are not lighthearted at all. They're all just horrific and terrible. The Faculty is slightly more lighthearted, but still with the same, there's an alien species that wants to take over the world. However, in this cult horror sci-fi movie directed by Robert Rodriguez, you have an alien species that lands right in the sweet spot in the middle of America where no one's paying attention to alien species, and infiltrates a high school, and slowly, one by one, that alien starts to assimilate members of, you guessed it, the faculty. And when some students in that school realize what's going on, they take a stand and try to fight for their own own survival and keep that alien's reach from spreading. Now, this movie being in the late 90s has an amazing cast of characters and some very familiar faces of some young adults and teens that were very popular around the time. Starring Josh Hartnett, Elijah Wood, Jordana Brewster, Clea Duvall, Usher, yes, that Usher, Selma Hayek, Robert Patrick, Jon Stewart, yes, that Jon Stewart, Famke Janssen. You know what? I'm gonna stop listing people because there really is a lot of people in this movie, but they're all for a great reason because everybody in this movie plays their part to perfection. And although it is indeed an alien takeover, there are moments of levity and teenage angst within the movie. Of course, this is a movie in the late 90s starring teenagers or people playing teenagers, but the movie is definitely one to watch if you're in for a slightly lighter sci-fi horror, but still one that'll leave you with some iconic scenes and lines to boot.
I don't think a person should run unless he's being chased.
Being chased. I like that.
And last on my sci-fi horror list, you knew it was gonna end this way, we all did, like, let's be honest, is that of Alien. Now, was I really gonna go through this list without talking about my favorite, one of my favorite horror sci-fi movies of all time? No. I feel like at this point, you all know how much I love that movie, and in case you don't, let's flash back. Just in case you guys forgot. Now, this 1979 movie, directed by Ridley Scott and starring the most iconic Sigourney Weaver, is about a crew of a commercial spaceship that happens to encounter a strange transmission, and when they go to check it out, they get way more than they bargained for. It's an alien, just in case you didn't guess that from the title of the movie. Now, this movie is over 40 years old. If you haven't seen it yet, once again, what are you doing? Go watch it. Come on. Go. I'll watch it with you. Well, in spirit, because we're not together. But this movie is absolutely iconic. Just like The Thing, this movie has some iconic practical effects. Obviously, one of the most iconic. If I show it, would that be spoiling it? But then again, it is 40 years, so is it really spoiling it at this point? I'm not entirely sure. But with an incredible cast of characters, obviously Sigourney Weaver, but also Ian Holm, John Hurt, Yaphet Kotto, Veronica Cartwright, this movie is absolutely incredible. And like some of the other movies on this list, it's also quite claustrophobic as the majority of the movie takes place aboard the spaceship, and it's the crew trying to fight for survival, the alien versus them. Who's gonna make it to the end? Well, if you see my review for Alien 2, or because that's on another, you do know who makes it to the end. Sorry, not sorry with the spoilers, but either way, it's a pretty damn good watch if I do say so myself. And you definitely won't regret watching it.
Listen to me. If we break quarantine, we could all die.
Look, would you open the goddamn hatch? We have to get him inside.
Anywho, thanks so much for joining me for this super-sized sci-fi horror welcome back to YouTube April list. All of that. If you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you want to see more lists, more reviews, more reactions. Obviously, I'm back now. I will be doing all those things and more. I'm so thankful for all of you that stuck around during the dark times when I wasn't posting anything, and hopefully that won't happen again, but we will be posting all the things moving forward. So also, if you have any recommendations of sci-fi horror, or you have your own master list of sci-fi horror that you love to tune into every now and again, put it in the comment section below and let's talk about it. You know I'm here for a good movie list. And for The Struggle is Real, I've been April, and I'll see you real soon. Peace! You know, once again, when I started this video, there was light outside, and it is dusk. You can watch the gradient of light just completely go, but there was, I promise, and now it's gone. But you know what? We're here, and we did it.